obviously I wanted to get right back on the air, just like launch right into the big problem everyone's talking about, which is home title fraud, one of the fastest growing crimes in America. A lot of these, you saw the riots over home title fraud this past week. Terrible, terrible things. There is a big issue, though, with home title fraud, and we're going to get to all the stuff going on in the world here in just a second. But this is the sort of thing that hits you when you're down, right? Like all this stuff is going on in the world right now, and you don't know how to deal with it. And then you get hit with something like home title fraud, which we're talking about losing basically your entire savings. And you can't really do anything about it. Criminals can find your title online, and then they commit fraud and steal the ownership of your home. They can borrow against it. You get stuck with the payments. People have been evicted. They have lost their homes. They have lost their savings over this. Home Title Lock, though, is there to make sure that you can get protection for your home's title that you need. Here's what you got to do. Just go to HometitleLock.com, register your address, see if you've already been a victim and just didn't know about it yet, because sometimes it takes months and months before you realize this is actually going on. Then sign up to help protect your home's legal title. It's 2020. You can't afford that. There's no to assume there's no risk here anymore. There's just too much stuff going on. Too many times you're being targeted online. Find out if you're already a victim of home title fraud at HometitleLock.com. Enter Beck for 1 free month of protection. It's HometitleLock.com. The code is Beck for 1 free month of protection. Glenn is in Idaho today. He is going to be doing the show from the ranch. He's got a little bit to say. I've got a little bit to say here after a week off and watching all this nonsense go crazy for a week. There is plenty going on today. No shortage of material in 2020. That is something you can always be promised. Radio show here starts in just a second.
To hear is the fusion of entertainment and enlightenment. This is the Glenn Beck Program.
Every day on the air, it becomes harder and harder to tell the truth and retain a voice. There are so many people being silenced, including somebody who was on my show just this last Friday. We'll talk about that coming up. And now there are several commentators, CBS, New York Times, and CNN, that are telling white people exactly what to do and to be quiet and to shut up. And here, if you want to make an impact, here's what you do. I couldn't disagree with them more, but they have a right to say what they believe. People need to stop denying their racism? No, that's not it. We'll tell you about it in 1 minute.
This is the Glenn Beck Program.
Home is where the heart is. It's the sanctuary you return to at the end of the day when you're weary from the world's troubles. This summer, Blinds.com, the #1 online retailer of custom window treatments in the world, wants to help you turn your home even into more of a sanctuary than it already is by offering you a chance to win a contact-free total bedroom makeover worth $2,000, plus a virtual session with an experienced interior designer whose work has been featured in Country Living magazine, Pop Sugar, and inspired millions online. It's Blinds.com. They're offering this now. It's always easy and affordable. I just did this this weekend. Tanya and I were buying some blinds for up here in the ranch, and it was a really tough thing for this person to do, I thought, online, and I thought she's not going to even be able to get close. She sent the fabric and all of the stuff in advance. We got it, I think, the next day. We looked at it. It was exactly right. And I mean, I don't know how people would do that if you're standing in the room. But she was across the country and did it virtually. It's Blinds.com. They make it so easy, and they are so competent at this. Blinds.com, you can enter now for your chance to win a total bedroom makeover worth $2,000. Just check out their special savings on top quality interior blinds, shades, shutters, and outdoor shades. No purchase is necessary. Some restrictions may apply. See Blinds.com for details. So I want to read a couple of things to you, and then I want to give you what really is happening here. CBS contributor Ibram X. Kendi said Friday that white people need to stop denying their racism in order to end white privilege. It is critical for white people, for people in general, to stop denying their racist ideas, to stop denying the ways in which policies have benefited them, to stop denying their racism. The heartbeat of racism itself is denial, and the sound of that heartbeat is, I'm not a racist. He said in early May that people protesting against the coronavirus stay-at-home order were comparable to slave owners, who said they also fought for individual freedom. Slave owners desired a state that wholly secured their individual freedom to enslave, not to mention their freedom to disenfranchise, exploit, and impoverish, also to demean and silence and kill the demeaned. So apparently that's what anybody who is doing when they protested the coronavirus, that's how he interpreted it. By the way, he is the founding director of the Anti-Research and Policy Center at American University, another fine Catholic university that is just keeping the principles of Jesus Christ alive. Then I have this. This comes from the New York Times. This is coming from, I don't know, some other author. It's an op-ed. He said, my book is coming out in a few months. I don't know if I'm even going to be alive to see it, because I'm a black man. On Monday evening, my agent, a liberal white woman in her 30s, sent an email informing me that she was postponing our important meeting with our editor the next day. The agency representing my book was observing Blackout Day. The company planned to take this time to reflect and think about the long-term actions we can take both as individuals and as an organization to address the systematic racism that persists in our business and our communities. To paraphrase my agent, they were pushing back on a meeting necessary now on the completion and timely release of my book, which is about how black people can apply the lessons we derive from traumatic experiences to our careers so white people could reflect on how to help black people. I countered, insisting that our meeting take place as scheduled because black people's lives are in danger, and I shouldn't have to sacrifice momentum on a book written for black people because white people are performing empathy. Now, I love this one. He's held back, and yet he's got a major book being published, and he's demanding that changes happen. But when white people say they want to sit and reflect and work on those changes, he says, how dare you, you're holding me back. Oh, my gosh. Okay, so anyway, he goes into this long story about how he has been traumatized his whole life, and I really feel bad for him. If that's the way he feels, honestly, he needs some psychotherapy because nobody should feel the way he feels. He completely feels powerless every day of his life. There's something wrong there. But then he talks about, stop sending me these emails. All these white people are trying to make me feel better, and I don't feel better. So if you want to make me feel better, here's what you do. 1, pay funds that pay legal fees to black people who are unjustly arrested, imprisoned, or killed, or black politicians running for office. Not a politician you or they might agree with, just a black politician. Text your relatives and loved ones, telling them you will not be visiting them or answering any of their phone calls until they take significant action in supporting black lives, either through protest or financial contributions. And protection. You protect fellow black protesters who are at greater risk of harm during the demonstrations than the white guy? Really? Oh, okay. Then there was this from Van Jones, and I'm getting to the point here. Stay with me for a second. On Friday, Van Jones was in Minneapolis. And he spoke to a bunch of white liberals who think they're not racist. And he said, people are telling me of they're tired of hashtags. They're tired of Van Jones saying to have a bipartisan solution. They're tired of people like me. They're tired of people saying over and over again that, we're basically one bill away, one election away from some progress. It's not the racist white person who is the Ku Klux Klan that we have to worry about. It's the white liberal Hillary Clinton supporter walking her dog in Central Park who will tell you right now, people like that, I don't see race. Race is no big deal to me. I see us all as the same. I give to charities. But the minute she sees a black man who doesn't respect or who has a slight thought against her, she weaponizes race like it's been trained by the Aryan nation, blah, blah, blah. So even the most liberal, well-intentioned white person has a virus in his or her brain that can be activated in an instant. Now white people have a virus in their brain. And all of us who have been burdened by this every minute, every second of our entire lives are very fragile right now. We are fragile. As painful as this is, what we saw was a lynching. That's what a lynching was. We saw a white man deprive a black man of his life in public. Well, we've seen this too, Van. We've seen the lynching too, not just of the black men, but also of many white people. And other black men being lynched for what reason? TVs? Shoes? When you see police arrest our colleagues in broad daylight, when they weren't doing anything wrong, that's not the case here. And that happens every day in America to black people all the time. That someone is just peacefully walking down the street, they haven't done anything wrong, and they're arrested by police? Could you please fill me in on those details? Because I'd sure like to stand up against it. But that's the reality that you're now starting to see. But there's another reality you're starting to see. I thought maybe hard work, if one worked hard, the police would be nice to you because these things don't happen to people you know. But the whole time, there's a whole nother America and a reason that you see people now doing these things that they're doing. We have no idea who set those fires. Could have been provocateurs. Anybody. The reason you see people willing to risk their lives in the middle of a plague and a pandemic to go out and literally risk their lives is because people are now fed up. My only prayer is that white people will look in the mirror at how you choke off black opportunity, how you choke off black dignity, how you behave in ways that make it harder for African Americans to rise to your profession in your place of work, on your campus, in your house of worship, and start working on that. Because this is the last domino of a whole series of dominoes that have been falling for a long time. And black people have been getting gaslit every time we point this out. People tell us, well, maybe it was this, maybe it was that. Are you sure it was this? You sure it was that? You don't get to this outcome. You don't get to a point where police officers can stand around. Don't tell me about the one who has the knee in his neck. Sometimes we have psychopaths and sociopaths with power. And when that happens, you call the police. But there they were. The police were watching it. And that is the problem. He said, white people in these situations are always innocent. Oh, my gosh, I can't believe this. Teach me, educate me, help me understand. I can't let this happen. Talk to me. Tell me something we can do. White people are always innocent, and their innocence constitutes their crime. It's too late to be innocent. It's too late. We've had too many funerals. We've had too many funerals for white people to be still at this innocence and shocked. I'm not saying that witnessing a lynching shouldn't flatten you. It's flattened all of us. But the flattening has been flattening us for years and decades and centuries. So now I guess we're all in it together. Well, are we? Are we in it together? Because the empathy only seems to be going one way. I'm supposed to understand you, but I'm not now supposed to ask you any questions. I'm just supposed to do exactly what you say. You're tired of teaching. You're tired of white people. Okay. This isn't racism. This is human nature. Where he is right now is where I am, I guess, on China, on the Christians in Turkey, on the gulags in China, gulags of North Korea. It's too late for you to say I'm innocent. You knew it was there. It was happening. Van, where are you on these things? How come you're not paying attention? Because his life is on fire right now. That's why. Why don't we care and do something? Because A, we don't know what to do, and B, our life is on fire. So even though we are very well aware that these gulags are happening, that China is an evil place, what do we do about it? But it's not just that. And I don't want to single him out, but where are the so-called black activists on Chicago? That's not a white problem. That's a black-on-black problem. Where are you on that? Another 30 or 40 were killed this weekend alone. Why is it so different when he doesn't see the deep pain that is in people that just believe in God or just believe in voting for somebody else? The pain that has been inflicted on 50% of the population over the last 10 years. I know it's not the same. I know it's not as deep. I know it doesn't go back centuries. But being called racist is probably the closest to the N-word we can get. It's a deeply offensive name made to belittle, shame, ostracize anyone who doesn't agree. It causes us to lose jobs. It causes us to lose friends. It causes us to lose space in now the public square of Twitter or Facebook. Someone can charge that, and we're just done. Being a conservative means you're not going to be accepted in the media. You're not going to be accepted in Hollywood. You're not going to any high society events. Good. There are two classes, and conservatives are second-class citizens. We can't protest without being classified as dangerous, racist, or revolutionaries. Just a few weeks ago, that's what everybody was calling us. Now doctors come out and say, you know what, the coronavirus isn't as bad as racism, so you can go out and protest. What? Let me break for 1 minute, and I'll tell you what everybody is missing on this and what's really going on. All right, our sponsor this half hour. We are so pleased to have MyPillow as our sponsor. Sometimes at night when I lay my head down on a pillow and I look up at the ceiling, I start to get some of the most amazing thoughts. Like, my wife said to me yesterday, I said, I opened my scriptures last night. I don't even remember a single word that I read. She said, you were asleep in 3 seconds. I have been able to fall asleep so fast where I used to toss and turn and toss and turn and toss and turn. I don't know how much MyPillow played in that, but I think a lot. When you have a pillow that's not getting hot, it fits your head just right, it makes a huge difference. MyPillow website, you can give them a call or you can go to the website and you can get their pillows. They're amazing, but also they have the buy one, get one free specials on all of their products. You're going to save a buttload of money just by taking advantage of the sales. You're literally buying better sleep. MyPillow.com. Click on the new radio listener specials and check out the buy one, get one free deals. You can only get them at MyPillow.com/Beck. Use the promo code Beck or call 800-966-3117 for the great radio specials. Click on great radio specials and then type in the word Beck into the search bar and it will take you to all of those buy one, get one free at MyPillow.com. 10 seconds, station ID. Okay, I don't want to equate these two things, but I want to explain to Van Jones exactly what he's going through here, and it's normal. People see the things that impact them every day. It's like when you go out to buy a new car, and you're looking at a car, and all of a sudden you see these cars everywhere. You didn't notice them before. The stats haven't changed on the car overnight. You just see the things that you're relating to. Van never saw the impact of the Obama administration on me or you. He belittled it. He thought it was a joke. He told me once that I wasn't hurt by all this, that I, quote, won. I said, what are you talking about? I said, look at what you've built. I said, really? Because I wasn't an adjunct professor at Princeton. I couldn't even give a speech at Princeton. They wouldn't let me in the front door. But see, this is normal. How many times have you felt badly because you knew a friend wasn't doing well, but you were busy on your own life and everything else, and then next thing you know, they're in the hospital, and you're like, wait, what happened? You show up at the hospital. What's happening right now is when you show up to the hospital and you're like, geez, I'm sorry, Betty, I had no idea it was this bad. I just got lost in my own thing, or I didn't know what to do. And Betty looks at you and says, get out of here. I hope you rot in hell. Because you weren't there for me when I needed you. I didn't know, Betty. I got lost in my own thing. This is what's happening. But it's more than that. It's more. Constitutionalists believe that we can help you. If you are feeling this way, we believe we can help you. Not just you, but everybody, ourselves included. Because we have a different philosophy, and it's very close to the philosophy that many of the black Congregationalists, anybody who's going to church on Sunday and you're African American, it's very close to what you're hearing from the pulpit, unless it's Jeremiah Wright. We have more in common than people have convinced you we have. We don't need anything from you. The people who are convincing you, you need us. You don't need us. Nobody needs anything from you. We have lots of stuff for you. And it comes from, I think, the path that alcoholics have walked. Away from the past. The past doesn't shape you or call the shots for your future. Only you can do that. Life isn't about what happened to you or an ancestor. It's about what you make of life. Frederick Douglass was against the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence until he spoke to Lincoln and he said, have you read it? He read it. And then he realized, and I believe this is a quote, it's the greatest anti-slavery document ever produced. Because these documents had truths that all men found self-evident. Some might deny, but you can't in the end because it's eternal truth. They were not creating equality. They were declaring that everyone knows that all men are created equal. Some are going to continue to deny it, but that's why we need to have a government to protect those rights. Well, we've never gotten it perfect, and no person ever will. We're going to throw that away? Millions of Americans believe in live and let live. Go your own way. I'll go mine. We can be neighbors. When you're in trouble, I'll be there for you. When I'm in trouble, I hope you're there for me. But here's the problem. We're not welcome. We're not even seriously considered. Well, we are considered, but we're considered the problem. You haven't listened to us. It's like a group who always buys a Ford because Ford promises them a new way to look at cars. They keep buying them, and every big idea Ford does is just reintroduce the Mustang over and over again. Meanwhile, Elon Musk is minding his own business and changing the car industry, and Ford is telling their buyers, you know what the problem is? Elon Musk, he's holding you back. Stop it!
This is the Glenn Beck Program.
All right, LifeLock. I have some good news and bad news for you. Which one do you want first? We start with the good news. April 15th, tax filing deadline got pushed back to July 15th. Now, that's good news. And here comes the bad news. While pushing that back a month or so gives you the extra time you need to take care of those pesky little taxes, it also gives cyber criminals additional time to mine for data to sell. He would have preferred the bad news first, I'm sure. A few years ago in 2016, people who were hacking in and grabbing all your information used false identities to steal at least $1.68 billion in tax refunds. Now imagine what they could do now. This is why you need LifeLock. LifeLock detects a wide range of identity threats and can help you avoid them. Nobody can prevent all identity theft or monitor all transactions at all businesses, but LifeLock sees the threats that you might miss on your own. So join now and save up to 25% off your first year by using promo code BECK. Call 1-800-LifeLock or head over to lifelock.com. Use the promo code BECK and save 25% off now.
If you've watched the media for the past week, you don't need any argument to join Blaze TV. Go to blazetv.com/Glenn. Use the promo code Glenn and save $10.
This is the Glenn Beck program. Glad you're here. We welcome back to the program Mr. Pat Gray and Steve Bergier, who, Stu, is joining us back from a week of vacation. Hello, both of you guys.
Hello. Hey, Glenn.
Welcome. Thank you very much. First of all, Stu, how was your vacation?
It was good. People kept saying, like, oh, I can't believe you took this week off, like, oh, with all this stuff going on. And I said, this is exactly the week I want off. First of all, I don't have to follow every in and out of, cities burning to the ground. And secondly, I don't have to tolerate 3 hours every day of Glenn Beck's saying, I told you so, over and over and over and over again, which I assume was the entire program last week. Am I wrong on that?
I don't think we said that at all, did we, Pat? We didn't say that.
No, I don't think, no, he didn't say that.
No, I don't think so.
I kept thinking to myself, because I sit in this room and we have this big chalkboard in front of us that has all the presidential names still on it, as if the election's even a story in this country anymore. And it takes up 2/3 of the chalkboard, are all these presidential names, and now all of them have dropped out, except, of course, for Biden. And then only in this left chunk is this 4-step thing that Glenn put up at, I think, the beginning of, or mid last year? I don't remember exactly when you
mid last year.
Yeah. And it has 4 steps. And I don't know, I've noticed a couple of them. See if anyone else has heard of economic destabilization. Has there been any of that has happened? The next one, polarization / civil unrest. I mean, was there any word of that over the tech disruption, which is a whole other thing we need to get into, and then trust implosion, which is seemingly already completely
defund the police, dismantle the police.
Yeah, they're just turning off the police department in Minneapolis.
It's a great idea.
Yeah, so I assumed that was basically going to make up the entirety of the show. So I was very pleased to be on vacation, to miss you. Did you even go over that list at all last week?
No, we didn't.
No.
We should have. No, but we didn't.
Because that was a central part of your idea as to what was coming over the next year. You talked over and over again about how this would be the summer of rage. And I don't know. I mean, I guess, is it technically summer yet? Not quite. So maybe the spring of rage would have been technically accurate, I suppose. But
I've been talking about a summer of rage. I will tell you, I've been talking about a summer of rage coming for a while. And when we got to 2020 and I saw what was happening with the Supreme Court, I'm like, okay, this is the summer of rage. But I've been expecting this to come for a while. So I've been wrong always on the timing of it. I don't want to claim that I was right because I've been saying it for a while. However, this is it, man. This is it. And I think you're going to have the fall of rage as well because of what's happening in Minneapolis.
You have been warning about 1968 for how long? A long time, actually. And I mean, we're past. This is worse than 1968. I'm convinced it's worse. We don't have the assassination, but I think we're right. I was only 8 years old at the time, but I mean, I don't think there was the total division that there is now. It's so divided.
You didn't. It was divided, but what you did have was you had some institutions that people still trusted. They still trusted their churches. Half of America still trusted the presidency. They trusted the military. They trusted the police.
Right.
And so you didn't have that division. But imagine even having a candidate today like RFK, one that really was providing hope and was a good guy, and shot. And then Martin Luther King shot. All within a couple of months from each other. Yeah. I mean, can you imagine what that would do? There is no Martin Luther King today, and there is no RFK today. That's the difference, I think, is there were leaders of real hope back then, and people weren't as, people still believed in God. They still believed in having hope, and the American way would make things better. I don't think that people think that anymore.
And I don't think people have caved in. I don't think people caved in back then to the will of the left like they've caved in now. I've never seen anything like this where everybody is just genuflecting to them.
If I don't see Drew Brees' children and the people who are saving some of his wife's eggs at the sperm center or whatever, if I don't see those people apologizing for the eggs from her or the sperm from him, I guess I won't be able to believe that he's sincere. Stop apologizing.
Do you keep female eggs at a sperm cent? Is that where you would keep them?
I don't know.
It seems like an odd title for a place that would
seem like a bad
eggs.
place to do it, too.
That is unbelievable. I mean, the Roger Goodell statement, it might be the most pandering, and like, I'm a defender generally of the NFL. Goodell, I think, gets a worse rap than even he deserves. I mean, people hate the guy.
Yeah.
But like, this is the ultimate example, Glenn, and we've seen it 1,000 times, where a CEO, a head of an organization, looks at the landscape and just says, I mean, what's the upside of even bothering with the truth? Let's just say what they want us to say. That's like where he is. It's almost, you can almost see the defeatism in it. It's like, yeah, we were wrong. We apologize. The kneeling thing's fantastic.
He's going to be out kneeling.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He'll be at the first game kneeling with Drew Brees, and they will both kneel during the national anthem.
Hey, Drew Brees won't do it. What did he say?
Won't do it.
I have veterans in my family, and like, I don't want to disrespect the flag, so I wouldn't want to do anything that risks
wasn't that awful?
Oh my gosh.
What a horrible person.
Gosh, what a terrible guy this guy is.
You take it back or we'll beat you to death.
Yeah.
Well, okay. No, I take it back.
Yeah. And my eggs
wife
at the sperm centers, I take it back too.
Yes.
Yeah. My sperms all apologize. All million of my potential children are apologizing today. I think we should start a Twitter. We should start a Twitter handle that is Drew Brees sperm number 1, sperm number 2.
It's all about. I'm sorry for.
I think he's only got 2, based on what I've seen the last few days. There are not
it
many.
Is.
It
is there. I read a story about how these big businesses now have just declared Black Lives Matter the winner. And they are all now starting their advertising campaigns to endorse and everything else. And I got news for you. You better hope that's the winning side. I mean, actually, no, if you were smart, you'd realize they'll come for you after they finish with us. But you better hope that's the winning side, because you're taking the side of the rioters. I don't relate to you at all anymore. I don't relate to your product as being anything that I desire or want.
Yeah, it's so they're so hypocritical. First, you have you see these protests happening around the country, and these super progressive companies like Apple, who are on the forefront of saying, we believe in all of this. They're the first ones boarding up their stores when a protest comes to the town.
I saw one interview last week. I think it was in Missouri, of all of these kids that were saying, we got to burn them all to the ground. Apple, Google, that's part of the slavery system, blah, blah, blah. And every single protester was holding their iPhone while they were saying it.
Amazing.
It is incredible, isn't it?
I can't take it.
It's amazing. We're going to talk next hour about Minnesota getting rid of the police department. There's a genius idea.
Right. Well, that's the thing too. And every once in a while, things happen. People give you presents, and you just forget to write a thank you card. The right, Donald Trump in particular, everybody who thinks anything that could possibly be conservative for the next 20 years, if you want that passed, should thank the left for running to defund the police. Because that is not what America is. You could sit here and tell, like, they have had this media like landscape where that side of the protests has won, right? Like, that's definitely the way these companies are seeing it. But I mean, defund the police is not the position where the Americans are. Dismantle the police. There was a segment on CNN this morning where they said, well, if we dismantle the police, like, and someone's breaking into my house, I hate to point out the obvious. Like, what happens in this situation? Like,
you get killed and your stuff gets taken.
Well, this was her legitimate response. Yes, I hear that loud and clear from a lot of my neighbors, and I know, and myself too. I know that comes from a place of privilege. Wait, what? Not wanting someone to break into my house and kill me comes from a place of privilege?
Oh, my God.
Like, these people are literally insane. So, luckily, they're the ones leading the movements.
I can't stand this racism and this hatred. Back in the 1400s, you didn't have a police officer around to stop people from breaking in. It was a privilege. You were a king or a royal. They could have somebody not step in. They could have somebody come in and try to steal, but they had the knights and everything else, and they could have that taken. So yes, it is a privilege.
It is. It's
a privilege that I think.
As I watch you with your guard dog walking around behind you, it is a little bit difficult to take you and your white priprivilege seriously as your killer German Shepherd is back there about to attack another dog on your wall.
Yeah, he is. He's looking at that dog like, isn't that weird? I've never seen him do that. He's looking up at the dog like, what the heck is that? It's a flat dog. Look at him.
Yeah, he really is. He's into it.
That's crazy. Uno, it's a piece of wood, man. Piece of wood. Yeah. Good boy.
And look, you can have this situation where we can all call the police privilege, and that's a society that could theoretically exist. What it exists, though, with is a massively expanded Second Amendment where people are handling their own security. This is something libertarians have pushed for a long time. It's something we've pushed at as part of the solution. I think I like the police too. I'd like to have them as well, but we should have the ability to defend ourselves. They want to take away the ability to defend yourself and have no police.
And the police. No, so here's the thing on this. They don't understand. What will this do? This will only create division that is larger between the poor and the rich. You're just going to have private security. People are not going to walk around and live in places with no police. If you don't have police, fine. Jeff Bezos, you don't think he's going to have protection? Yeah. So the regular people will have their stuff stolen. It's the same thing that, Rosie O'Donnell, she says, I don't believe in carrying guns, but she has people that she hires to carry guns. Well, the average person, Rosie, can't afford that. So that's why we have a Second Amendment. You can say you don't want to carry a gun, but I don't have the money to afford to have people carry guns around me. So maybe you should let us, people down at the bottom be able to carry a gun. That's the same thing that's happening. So the Rosie O'Donnells of the world, those who really understand equality, will have privileges that the average person will not be able to afford. Called the police.
Pat Gray Unleashed. You can get the podcast every single day and wherever you get your podcasts as well. Today, return of Stu Does America. That'll be tonight. So check out those two shows on Blaze TV. BlazeTV.com/Glenn. Use the promo code Glenn for $10 off.
All right, I want to talk to you a little bit about pain. Do you have pain in your life? Is it frequent? Is it never ending? Is it something that has changed your life in one way or another? You can't take walks. You can't play with the kids or the grandkids. What is it that you no longer do because of pain? I would like you to try Relief Factor. Relief Factor is usually the last place people go. They go to their doctor and they get all kinds of pain killers and everything else. And a lot of people, unfortunately, who are in chronic pain are also now addicted to some sort of narcotic or take narcotics. Even though it just destroys them, they take it because it's the only thing that actually takes the edge off. How about getting rid of your pain? Not just taking the edge off it, but how about getting rid of most of your pain? I want you to try Relief Factor. I know you've tried everything else. I did the same thing. Then I tried this. Right now, Relief Factor will cost you $20, less than $20, to get a 3-week pack to be able to take it 3 times a day to see if it will work for you. If it doesn't work for you, yes, you're out $20. If it does work for you, which it does 70% of the people, you get your life back. So please try it. ReliefFactor.com. That's ReliefFactor.com. Call 800-500-8384. 800-500-8384. It's ReliefFactor.com.
You're listening to Glenn Beck.
So yesterday, Archbishop Carlo Viango released a letter that he sent to President Trump warning him about the current crisis. And I just want to give you the first line in this. Mr. President, in recent months, we have been witnessing the formation of two opposing forces I would call biblical, the children of light and the children of darkness. This is, a remarkable letter that I think has to be read in its entirety. He talks about the deep state and the deep state in the church, and that these opposing forces now are taking their masks off because they are so arrogant and they believe that now is the time of their great power and they could do whatever they want without anyone, causing them harm or molesting them. And it's a remarkable letter. I want to read that to you coming up in a minute. Also, I don't know if you saw, the president retweeted the portion of the show that I had on Friday with Candace Owens, which didn't cause me any headaches at all. But Candace was on, and we had a really amazing conversation. I hope to have Candace on again later today, because she's now been banned by GoFundMe. She was raising money for some people that disagreed with Black Lives Matter. It was a business, I think, that was burned down or was trying to rebuild or something, and she had raised about $250,000, and GoFundMe shut her down because of what she said on my program on Friday. It was an exclusive on Blaze TV. It's still there. You can watch it. It's a fascinating interview. She is very, very strong in her opinions and very well thought out. But God forbid we let somebody like that talk. We'll have that report for you. Also, what's really behind BLM, and this letter to the president from an archbishop in Rome.
This is the Glenn Beck Program.
All right, let me tell you about our sponsor this half hour. Our spotlight sponsor is Built Bar, which is fantastic. This is a sponsor I actually called our sales department. I said, do you see if they're interested in being a sponsor? Because I love these things. I have a sweet tooth. You could not imagine that. And every night before I go to bed, I have to have something sweet. Well, I always get in trouble. That's why I gain weight. Well, now Built Bar, it tastes just like a candy bar. It is so unbelievably delicious, and it's a protein bar, 150 calories. It's like eating a Snickers bar or, whatever the flavor is that you really love, and I love many of them. Built Bar, they're delicious. Try it. Get $10 off at BuiltBar.com. BuiltBar.com. Use the promo code BECK.
You're about to hear is the fusion of entertainment and enlightenment. This is the Glenn Beck Program.
Well, hello, America, and welcome to the Glenn Beck Program. We're glad you're here. For anybody who has been hearing the argument, they don't want to defund the police, and make the police go away. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. And they've done it now in Minnesota, and they don't really have a plan for it. They just think it's going to be much, much better than the police. Holy cow, if I was even thinking about selling my house or my business in Minnesota, I would do it today before you don't have a house or property values left. What is the world without a police force? Oh, yeah, you know what? Sorry, that's rhetorical. It's the medieval days. But don't worry about those dark ages. Weren't as dark as everybody thought they were. This is insanity. This is insanity. There is a a letter from an archbishop in the Vatican to President Trump that has just been released. He says it's not insanity. He says it's evil. I have to read every word of this letter to you. It is astonishing. We begin there in 1 minute.
This is the Glenn Beck Program.
I have to tell you, I love my dog, Uno. Uno, come here, buddy. Come here. Uno is by my side all the time. Come here, buddy. Come on. He has been sleeping. He has been by my side every day, all through the coronavirus and everything. He follows me around. I just love him so much. He's part of the family. And I know you feel the same way about your dog. And that's why I have really been so excited to see his life change when we started giving him Rough Greens. Rough Greens is not a dog food. It is a supplement, and it has everything that they need in it, because if you feed your dog dry dog food especially, there's nothing good. There's nothing alive in that. And, dogs are just like you. They need the enzymes. They need the antioxidants, and they need the probiotics, all of those things. Give your dog Rough Greens for 14 days and see if you don't see a huge difference in your dog. My dog, huge difference. More active, just more alive, happier. Try it. Rough Greens. Go to roughgreens.com/Beck. He wouldn't eat a thing. He races to the bowl now. roughgreens.com/Beck, or call 833-GLEN-33. That's 833-GLEN-33. roughgreens.com/Beck. So I want to play some audio here for you from Seattle. A Seattle police officer is talking. Something is being shot by, this video is being shot by a city council person on the city council. And, everybody on the Seattle City Council, I think, is mad and insane and leftist and Marxist. But she's filming this, talking to a police officer. And I want you to listen to what the guy standing right behind the police officer is saying in a bullhorn. Listen to this.
SPD!
For people to breathe.
I need you to do me a favor.
That is
Take your guns, put them under your chins, and pull the trigger.
This isn't a response that protesters
I need you to kill yourselves. That's your only redemption.
If what I'm asking you to do is tell me when you were sitting over in the...
Go ahead. Save us the trouble of tearing you apart.
What happened?
And kill yourselves.
Is that a threat? When is anybody in the media going to start taking these people seriously, that they mean it? When they say defund the police, they mean defund the police. You don't believe me? Here in Minneapolis, play the audio of the protesters on stage in Minneapolis, and the mayor of Minneapolis shows up, has been marching with them, if I'm not mistaken, and then they turn on him. Listen to this.
Jacob Fry, we have a yes or no question for you. Yes or no, will you commit to defunding Minneapolis Police Department?
What's that mean, defund the police?
We don't want no more
what
police. Is that clear? We don't want people with guns toting around in our community, shooting us down. You have an answer?
Okay.
Yes,
so that's what they're...
Stop. Yes.
Stop. That's what they're talking about. We want no more guns in our neighborhood. We don't want police. No more police. Okay. All right. Now, does this sound reasonable to you? Does this sound insane? Or quite honestly, does this sound evil? I want to read something that has just been mailed to President Trump. He wrote, this is from an archbishop in the Vatican. His name is Archbishop Carlo Maria Viango. He said, in recent months, Mr. President, we have been witnessing the formation of two opposing sides that I would call biblical, the children of light and the children of darkness. The children of light constitute the most conspicuous part of humanity, while the children of darkness represent an absolute minority. And yet the former are the object of a sort of discrimination, which places them in a situation of moral inferiority with respect to their adversaries, who often hold strategic positions in government, politics, the economy, and in the media. In an apparent inexplicable way, the good are now being held hostage by the wicked and by those who help them either out of self-interest or fearfulness. These two sides, which have a biblical nature, follow the clear separation between the offspring of the woman, humans, and the offspring of the serpent, the devil. On the one hand, there are those who always, although they have 1,000 defects and weaknesses, are motivated by the desire to do good, to be honest, to raise a family, to engage in work, give prosperity to their homeland, to help the needy, and in obedience to the law of God to merit the kingdom of heaven. On the other hand, there are those who want to serve themselves, who do not hold any moral positions, who want to demolish the family and the nation, exploit workers to make themselves unduly wealthy, foment internal divisions and wars, accumulate power and money. For them, the fallacious illusion of temporal well-being will one day, if they do not repent, yield to the terrible fate that awaits them far from God. In society, Mr. President, these two opposing realities coexist as eternal enemies, just as God and Satan are eternal enemies. And it appears that the children of darkness, whom we may easily identify with the deep state which you wisely oppose, and which is fiercely waging war against you in these days, have, listened to this, decided to show their cards, so to speak, by now revealing their plans. They seem to be so certain of already having everything under control that they have laid aside that circumspection which until now had at least partially concealed their true intentions. The investigations are already underway that will reveal the true responsibility of those who manage the COVID emergency, not only in the area of healthcare, but also in politics, the economy, and the media. We will probably find that in this colossal operation of social engineering, there are people who have decided the fate of humanity, aggregating themselves to the right to act against the will of its citizens and their representatives in the governments of nations. We will also discover that the riots in these days have been provoked by those who, seeing that the virus is inevitably fading and the social alarm of the pandemic is waning, it was necessary to provoke civil disturbances because they would be followed by repression, which though legitimate, could be condemned as an unjustified aggression against the population. The same thing is happening in Europe in perfect synchrony. It is quite clear the use of street protests is instrumental to the purpose of those who would like to see someone elected in the upcoming presidential election who embodies the goals of the deep state and who expresses those goals faithfully and with conviction. It will not be surprising if in a few months we once again learn that hidden behind these acts of vandalism and violence are those who hope to profit from the dissolution of the social order as so to build a world without freedom. Although it may seem disconcerting, the opposing alignments I have described are also found in religious circles. There are faithful shepherds who care for the flock of Christ, but there are also mercenary infidels who seek to scatter the flock and hand the sheep over to be devoured by ravenous wolves. It is not surprising that these mercenaries are allies of the children of darkness, and they hate the children of light. Just as there is a deep state, there is also a deep church that betrays its duties and forswears its proper commitments before God. Thus, the invisible enemy, whom good rulers fight against in public affairs, is also fought by good shepherds in the ecclesiastical sphere. It is a spiritual battle, which I spoke about in my recent appeal. For the first time, the United States has in you a president who courageously defends the right to life, who is not ashamed to denounce the persecution of Christians throughout the world, who speaks of Jesus Christ and the right of citizens to freedom of worship. Your participation in the March for Life, and more recently, your proclamation of the month of April as National Child Abuse Prevention Month, are actions that confirm which side you wish to fight on. And I dare to believe that both of us are on the same side of this battle, albeit with different weapons. For this reason, I believe that the attack to which you were subjected on your visit to the National Shrine of St. John Paul II is part of the orchestrated media narrative which seeks not to fight racism and bring social order, but to aggravate dispositions, not to bring social justice, but to legitimize violence and crime, not to serve the truth, but to favor one political faction. And it is disconcerting that there are bishops, such as those who I have recently denounced, who, by their words, prove that they are aligned on the opposing side. They are subservient to the deep state, to globalism, to aligned thought, to a new world order, which will invoke ever more frequently in the name of universal brotherhood, which has nothing Christian about it, but which evokes the ideals of those who want to dominate the world by driving God out of the courts, out of the schools, out of the families, and perhaps even out of our churches. The American people are mature and have now understood how much mainstream media does not want to spread the truth, but seeks to silence and distort it, spreading the lie that is useful for the purposes of their masters. However, it is important that the good, who are the majority, wake up from their sluggishness and do not accept being deceived by a minority of dishonest people with unavowable purposes. It is necessary that the good, the children of the light, come together and make their voices heard. What more effective way is there to do this, Mr. President, than by prayer? Asking the Lord to protect you, the United States, and all humanity from this enormous attack of the enemy. Before the power of prayer, the deceptions of the children of darkness will collapse. Their plots will be revealed. Their betrayal will be shown. Their frightening power will end in nothing. Brought to light and exposed for what it is, an infernal deception. Mr. President, my prayer, and constantly turn to the beloved American nation, where I had the privilege and honor of being sent by Pope Benedict as an apostolic nuncio. In this dramatic, decisive hour for all humanity, I am praying for you, all those who are at your side of the government of the United States, and I trust the American people are united with me in a prayer for you to Almighty God. That is one of the most stunning things I have ever read from the Vatican. That is, biblical, obviously, in its nature and its impact, and absolutely right. It is time that we come together. It is time that we recognize the forces of evil and the forces of good, and we stop playing footsie with it. We must call it out by name, with love and respect for all, but call it out by name. And so I will do so, beginning in 1 minute, as I call Black Lives Matter by name. Our sponsor this half hour. If you have a car that is out of warranty, you know it's going to break down. It's almost like they intentionally, well, how long is the warranty on this part? Okay, 4 years? Great. This will break down 4 years, 2 weeks. It's almost like they plan it to only last that long. And now with the way that you have cars where you can't just go to, Pep Boys and grab all the parts or the chips, you can't even diagnose what's going on. You have to take your car into the shop and have it fixed. And those chips sometimes are $3,000. I want you to call 1-800-CAR-6000 and get yourself covered with Car Shield. Car Shield will help you guard against the disasters that are going to come your way. With rates as low as $99 a month, you can choose your favorite mechanic or dealership to do all the work, and Car Shield will take care of the rest. Rates as low as $99 a month. You have nothing to lose. Get Car Shield today. 800-CAR-6000. 800-CAR-6000. Or visit carshield.com. Use the promo code Beck and save 10%. That's carshield.com. Promo code Beck. A deductible may apply. 10 seconds. Station ID. All right, so let me talk to those who actually believe in God here for a second. If you believe in God, you know that the individual is responsible for himself. And beyond that, the family is the nucleus. The family is ordained of God. The family is the most important building block of all of society. People are now saying, and I said this last week, people are now saying, I agree with Black Lives Matter and but I don't agree with the rioters. Well, wait a minute. Wait, now we're cleansing Black Lives Matter. Now, I read their website, 5 years ago or so, and it was horrifying. Well, they have gone back under cloak, but they wanted to make sure that everyone knew with eyes you could see what they really were. On the blacklivesmatter.com website, you tell me if this is good or evil. We seek to disrupt the Western prescribed nuclear family structure requirement by supporting each other as extended families and villages that collectively care for one another, especially our children, to the degree that mothers, parents, and children are comfortable. It sounds nice. Oh, well, they're always going to take care of each other. We disrupt the Western prescribed nuclear family structure requirement. Now, let me just tell you that around 50 years ago, we destroyed another nuclear family. We destroyed the nuclear family of the African American. And it has been an unmitigated disaster. We have incentivized dads to leave the home. Jason Riley, a senior fellow at Manhattan Institute, claims that family structure offers a much more plausible explanation to the outcomes of what is happening in the black community than residual white racism. The family structure has broken down, and I believe it was by design. And I believe it was by design by evil progressives. They've been trying to destroy the black family and the black community forever. Now, there's something else that seems oddly out of place. Remember, this is a Black Lives Matter, so this is a black-run organization. We foster a queer-affirming network. When we gather, we do so with the intention of freeing ourselves from the tight grip of heteronormative thinking. I can tell you, I find it highly unlikely that a group of black people wrote that. I find that highly unlikely. I'll bet you no black people had any part of writing that. Blacks are by the largest margin of 18%, the least supportive of homosexuality. There was a PRRI research paper, roughly 6 in 10 white, 59%, Hispanic, 60%, and mixed race Americans, 59%, and close to 7 in 10, 69%, Asian Pacific Islanders. Americans favor same-sex marriage. However, black Americans are more divided, with fewer than half, 48%, expressing support in allowing gay and lesbian couples to marry, while 41% opposed. However, this represents a 5-point increase in support in same-sex marriage compared to the 43% in 2015. So they are 30 points behind everybody else. And even the crowdsourced liberal Wikipedia says that this is because African Americans are so bound to their religion. So how much do you want to make a bet that the final phase for the black community is happening now, trying to get blacks to separate from their church? That way you can move progressive policies forward and you can completely destroy these people. It's weird because blacks are so close to God, and yet God is not mentioned in a single page of Black Lives Matter's website. Gender shows up 4 times, sex 3 times, comrades shows up twice, but no mention of God. I'll tell you what this is. This is not a movement. This is a Soros operation. This is a way to get people to vote for Democrats for the next 200 years and to tear our nation apart. More in a second.
This is the Glenn Beck Program.
So if you are living in, let's say, I don't know, Minneapolis, you might want to think about moving. And if you are, you need a really good real estate agent before all of them leave your city as well. Housing market has not done badly. I mean, I really thought this thing would be a mess. Turns out a lot of people are still moving. Turns out a lot of people have a reason to move. Turns out a lot of people are moving from California to Texas. That's weird. Anyway, the country is on fire at the moment, but it might be a good time to relocate to somewhere with a lesser number of jerks per 100,000 or something like that. And you need somebody who is the best, who's going to help sell your home on time and for the most amount of money. May I recommend Real Estate Agents I Trust? The name kind of says it all. Real Estate Agents I Trust. It's a free service to you. I want you to do your own homework. Get this real estate agent name and phone number, and then call them, talk to them, and interview others. But this is a huge, huge investment you're making. Make sure you do your homework. RealestateAgentsITrust.com. Get your home sold on time and for the most amount of money. RealestateAgentsITrust.com.
And go to blazetv.com/Glenn. Use the promo code Glenn. Get $10 off. Get the TV show as well. Stu Does America, Pat Gray Unleashed, and more.
I'm shocked at how many people will look at things that are going on and say, yeah, well, it makes sense. Makes sense. People were in their homes, and so there's going to be violence. You're in their homes. I was in my home. I'm not shooting anybody. Well, people are frustrated. Well, I'm very frustrated. How about you? Are you frustrated? We're not shooting anybody. Well, their businesses were destroyed. Yeah. A lot of people within the sound of my voice, their business was destroyed. They're not going out and destroying other people's businesses. Well, they've gotten the raw end of the deal. The police. Yeah, they have. They have. At times. At times. I mean, this guy wouldn't have had an encounter with police. It's not like they just pulled him over, because he was driving while black. He was in the midst of a crime and dropped a bag of drugs as they were running after him. So it's not like, he could have avoided the police. It's not like they sought him out. Now, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't get the harshest sentence for this police officer that he deserves. But I don't think that's happening. The George Soros-backed candidate, Keith Ellison, he's upping this to second-degree murder. And everything I have read on this, I don't think he has a second-degree murder charge. I don't think he has it. He's gone from aggressive endangerment, which is basically their third-degree murder, to where you're just totally reckless with abandon, and it causes somebody's death. He's gone from that to really murdering the guy. And all of the other guys that were on the police force with him at that time, they were all in on it. You're going to have those 3 police officers walk, and you might have this police officer walk. That's not what you charge. No prosecutor would ever charge them with that because you have a good chance of losing. Then what? You have more riots on the street. Well, isn't that nice? Oh, because of Keith Ellison's son, who's on the city council, you're not going to have any police. Minneapolis, congratulations. I can't even imagine what your property values are going to be like in a year from now. Congressional Budget Office came out and said the economy will take 10 years to recover from the impact of coronavirus. 10 years. Target and Walmart have closed hundreds of stores between them in the last week because of the riots. Adidas has temporarily closed all of its stores. All of its stores. All across America. Amazon has scaled back or adjusted delivery routes. Handful of cities to protect its employees. Many small business owners in Minneapolis, Los Angeles, Washington, D.C. are starting just now to reopen their businesses and restaurants when the riots hit. The Wall Street Journal reports that Minnesota state officials are already estimating that Minneapolis has over $1 billion in property damage. And that doesn't include the job losses or the looting. As of last Tuesday, at least 300 businesses across Minneapolis and St. Paul had been vandalized, looted, or had its doors and windows smashed. Out of the 308 damaged businesses, 45 of them are now nothing but rubble because they were destroyed by fire. And I guess the crowning achievement of the rioters in Minneapolis is they've completely burned down a $30 million affordable housing project. 190 housing units that were slated to open in the spring of 2021. Community Group in Atlanta says that last week's riots alone caused $10 to $15 million in property damage. That doesn't include any losses from looting. Because of the Freddie Gray riots in 2015, Baltimore had $9 million in damages. Los Angeles, $1.4 billion. $1.4 billion. In Detroit, in 1967, it was $322 million. Miami, 1980, $204 million is what it cost that city to get back onto the grid. New York, 1977, $118 million. Baltimore, $104 million. Chicago, $168 million. New York, $30 million. Now, here's the thing. It's not just the damage. It's what happens to the areas of town that are ravaged. There's an economic professor at the College of Holy Cross. He studied the 1992 Rodney King riots in L.A. He said the economic activity in the areas didn't return to previous levels for 10 years. He said the riots cost $5 billion in lost sales in those 10 years. And the ones who really are hurt are the minorities because it's in their neighborhood. A conclusion from Vanderbilt University. We find the occurrence of a riot significantly depressed the value of black-owned property between 1960 and 1970, and there was little or no rebound during the 70s. The riot's effects were powerful enough to shift the center of the property value distribution in these cities. The effects were not narrowly contained in the areas that experienced the riot activity. Their estimates suggest that the riots caused 10% decline in the total value of black-owned property in cities. Who are you helping? Who are you helping? You're not helping the black community. You are hurting the black community. Of course, if I say that, I'm apparently hurting the black community. You repeat it. You're hurting the black community. I don't know about you, but I'm done with all of that. I'm done with it. You know, there was a police officer that was told to kneel down in front of the crowd. And he said no. He's in Georgia. He's a state trooper. You might have heard this. I don't know if you heard the whole story. But he's a law enforcement officer that refused to kneel for protesters at a Black Lives Matter rally in Hartwell, Georgia on Sunday. He's a state trooper. He said, I only kneel for one person, and that person is God. He's being ravaged today. These are the times we talked about for so long. This is the act of terrorists. That's what's happening. It's terrorism. This is hatred. This is racism masking as anti-racism. This is the racial equivalent of Antifa. I'm not going to apologize for my white privilege. Was it easy for me to do this? No. No, I grew up in a poorish family. I mean, I didn't live in the projects. But we worked hard for everything that we had. I didn't have any special privilege. My folks couldn't afford to send me to college. I had to pay for it when I was 30. I believe most America is not a racist nation. Obama wouldn't have been elected if it were. Trump's not a racist. Jesse Jackson was praising him in the 90s for supporting the Rainbow Push coalition. Trump has had a black girlfriend. What white supremacist Nazi lover dates a black woman? Meanwhile, I've got pictures of Joe Biden sniffing the heads of 30 kids. Not one of them is black. What's he have a problem with black people? With black kids? Why isn't he maybe he should talk to Corn Pop about this. Joe Biden has said more racist stuff in the last 30 days than Trump has said probably in his whole lifetime. But here's the thing I want you to hear. Joe Biden now says he has all the solutions to fix race relations in this country. Well, why the hell didn't you share that with Obama? When you had power, how come when you were in the Senate you didn't share those ideas? Why didn't you use that knowledge at any time in the last 4 years in office to fix things? Because your solution is the same. Get black people to vote for you and then abandon them. You know, I was talking to a friend this weekend and I said, I'm so glad that the Lord showed us that this was coming. I'm so glad that we knew. Can you imagine if you didn't have God and you didn't have hope? You didn't have God, so you didn't know how the story ended. You had no inkling that this was coming. Can you imagine what kind of panic you would be in right now? We knew this was coming. This is the time where we either stop evil or we succumb to it. And the first thing we have to do is not become evil ourselves. We have to let go of our anger, and we have to steel ourselves for perseverance. Don't burn out in the pregame, because this is going to go on for a while. You know, every day when I sit down here at this desk and I talk to you in the last couple of weeks, I think to myself, well, gee, I got to say that. I don't know. Is that racist? I mean, maybe I shouldn't say that. What? There are many things that I believe that I shall never say, but I shall never say the things that I do not believe. I didn't understand what Immanuel Kant meant when he said that. I read that 15, 20 years ago now, and I couldn't understand the world that he lived in. It's the world we're living in now. I'm not a racist. I don't think you're a racist. Maybe we've done hurtful things from time to time, or we didn't pay attention to certain things, because everybody lives in their own world. But I'm not apologizing for the sins of the past. I can't fix the past. I had 2 relatives. My 2 great uncles died in the Civil War, fighting for the North. I'm not going to apologize for anything. I'll work side by side with anybody. I'll teach whatever I can to anybody. I'll hire anybody qualified. I don't care what they look like. I have no problem with that. But the media conditioning that we're going through right now, think about this. I told you this. I was thinking about this morning. I told you about this a while back. When you have a war, everything can be changed because people get so tired of it that by the end of it, it's a new normal. By the time you go back to it, it's not the same. Everything's askew, but you don't know or you don't care because at least that's over. What do you think is happening to us right now? They've been talking about a new normal for a while. But remember, they weren't talking about a new normal because we were going to wear masks. They were talking about a new normal and how this was going to change everything. Progressives had this opportunity. And when we started saying, okay, enough is enough, all of a sudden the protests start. I'm not saying you shouldn't protest. And I'm not saying that killing was anything other than a horrible move by a pretty bad guy. But we are being played. We are being played. Don't fall into those hands. Know what you believe. Know our true history. Don't apologize for it. And stand. Back in a minute. Omaha Steaks. Oh, yes, yes. When you're firing up the grill and you open up the freezer and or the fridge and there's an empty rack in there and you're like, oh yeah, the Omaha Steaks are now out on the grill. You know that it's a manly day. Maybe it's Father's Day. Right now, Omaha Steaks is offering access to a wide variety of amazing packages, which are perfect to send to Dad for Father's Day. Go to omahasteaks.com and enter the promo code Beck into the search bar. You're going to see all of the great options there. Many of the steaks include free shipping and a free pound of steak cut bacon. And they also have, side dishes that are easy to make, one-step family meals, artisan desserts, everything. Right now, the Father's Day packages are ready to order and ready to ship, and many include free shipping and a free pound of steak cut bacon. Omaha Steaks, they deliver guaranteed quality and safety with every single order. So send Dad the gift of steaks. Meat is what a man wants. Visit omahasteaks.com and type Beck into the search bar to shop for Father's Day today. It's omahasteaks.com. Type Beck in the search bar.
This is the Glenn Beck Program.
This is the Glenn Beck Program. Welcome back, Mr. Stuber-Gear.
Thanks, Glenn. One thing I was fascinated in watching while I was on vacation was my social media feed completely loaded with people making lists of, let's say, Black-owned restaurants that you can support in these times. And, you can see the motivation being pretty good there, and that, you're trying to support these businesses. A lot of them had their businesses trashed or lit on fire. Hey, support Black-owned businesses in these communities. I can't help, though, to keep coming back to the idea that if you're making a decision as to where to eat, and part of your decision-making process is what is the skin color of the owner of the business, this is a bad idea that does not worked out well for Black people in the past. And I'm thinking...
So you're saying that having somebody make a list of white-owned businesses would be a bad thing.
Would be offensive. Yeah. In fact, I would say, and I'm going to go out on a limb here, you shouldn't consider the skin color of the business owner when you do business with them. Should not be a part of the equation in any way. No matter how woke
what are you
saying?
Just base it on if it's good or not?
I know. It's crazy.
What kind of capitalism is that, you weirdo racist?
This is the Glenn Beck Program.